with the second edition of the Squadcast. I'm Tank Franklin.
Way too nice in the building.
And Gentle Warrior.
And we're back with another edition, and we're here to talk about the usual random bullshit. Mainly fucking games and entertainment and such, like we've gone over before, if this is the first episode you're watching. And we'll start in the gaming realm. Back on Overwatch, we mentioned this last time.
Yeah, starting to get some more matches in, normal.
Getting more matches in, but it's been rough. I think we were doing better the last time we talked about Overwatch, but recently, these past couple days, we've been just getting ripped
Just
in half.
win one and lose one. It kind of has been like the motto.
Yeah, but on the positive side of Overwatch, we mentioned before that this game is a lot of fun to watch in the pro gaming fucking MLG setting, the super intense competitive blah.
Which they have literally right on the game now,
Yeah,
It's been like that for a while.
Yeah,
though.
literally you'll see it'll just pop up saying Overwatch Live. You can just click on it.
Overwatch League, which is what we're here to talk about fucking real quick. Overwatch League. All of us have, dabbled in watching competitive Overwatch here and there.
Yeah, we throw it in all the time.
But fucking, haven't really been watching too much recently. But when we hopped on Overwatch again recently, I seen Overwatch League was live, so I go on, I hop in, I see it's Seoul Dynasty versus New York Excelsior. And I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever considered watching Overwatch competitive or pro play, even if you don't play the game, or maybe you're interested in just watching that, or especially if you play the game and are interested in watching it, definitely watch this match. It was on the 14th of March. And
they're the two best teams right now, too. Right?
They are the two best teams right now. And Seoul was going into this game undefeated. New York had only one loss on their belt. It was an intense matchup. Usually the way the rules work is each team, the two teams will play 4 maps. They'll split it up to the payload, capture point, hybrid, blah, blah, blah. Play 4 maps. Usually, the better team will get the 3 wins, and then the last map is whatever. But if there is the 2-2 tie on the maps, it will go to a 5th map. This match went to a 5th map, back and forth battle. Not here to call myself the Dave Meltzer of Overwatch, but I'm giving this a 5-star rating.
5-star.
Personal 5-star rating. So go ahead and go watch that. And something else that I seen, and I was telling you about this. Winston's Lab, which is, if you're interested in Overwatch pro play, like I said before, Winston's Lab is a good website to go and keep track of everything that's going on with all the latest tournaments, blah, blah, blah.
You can see all the players' stats, too, like the top guys for each team, how many kills they get, when their averages, and all that stuff.
Well, are you going to spoil it and tell us who won?
No, I'll let the viewers go and watch that. Why spoil it?
Yeah,
I already said it's a 5-star match.
Obviously, everybody thinks South Korea's taking it home,
That's the thing about these teams is that just because there's only one team, in a city in South Korea, doesn't mean there's not South Koreans playing on all the other teams, which there is.
Just kind of scattered about.
Pretty much. Seoul, I'm pretty sure, is, one team from South Korea, pretty much mostly that team. But then New York Excelsior is just another South Korean team. London is another South Korean team, which actually before I glance over the Overwatch League topics, the way it works right now is that there's 4 stages of, a couple weeks of play or whatever the fuck it is. And then they go to the playoffs. So the first stage is already completed. The winners ended up being London Spitfire, with the top 3 teams at the end of it being New York Excelsior, Houston Outlaws, and London Spitfire. The top 3 teams so far in this stage 2 are New York Excelsior, Seoul Dynasty, and Los Angeles Gladiators, in case you're interested. But yeah, you can find out more about that shit on Winston's Lab. But yeah, to go further into Winston's Lab, I seen on there, and I was telling you about this, they're dabbling in fantasy Overwatch. Like fantasy football.
As in, you can actually bet money in it, or you could just pick your teams out, and whoever gets the most points per player.
The winner
kind of cool.
Gets a t-shirt. I think it's a good concept.
Hold on. The winner of this whole competition,
you pick players.
It goes by weeks. You pick your set of players each week. Which the way it works out is you pick 2 offensive players, 2 tank players, 2 support players, which they categorize all the different players on the different teams into those categories, or the flex players, which there's almost no flex players. And then after that, what would that be? 8?
Pretty much.
Or 6? No, that'd be 6, right?
Yeah.
You get another 4 of whoever you want, which right now it's based off kills. Is the points is you get. This character gets +2 points for a kill.
Well, then what about the tanks or healers? They're based off kills also, or
well, yeah,
they have higher points per kill. Or
yes, only slightly though. So my recommendation, as of right now, is for those extra 4, pick all your DPS players because it seems like kills are gonna be what's getting you high if you're playing.
Pick your tracers, your Genjis. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, so then also you're saying there's only 1 T-shirt per week.
It's a
sent out
Overwatch League jersey. You pick the jersey of whatever team you want.
But that's what I mean. It doesn't break down into multiple leagues. It's just everybody, whoever wants to play, is in one.
It probably has a lobby
bracket
with like 100,000 people in it or something.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many in it right now. But one thing, if you're super into Overwatch, competitive shit, blah, 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 you can set up a private league of you and like 9 of your buddies with just a 10-man league, and you can compete amongst yourselves to see who has the best team.
It's definitely popular in certain places, I bet, like where it's all going on, the matches and stuff, and the people that go there to see the matches. Like, there's people that probably play.
It's a smart idea, honestly. Anything you can do to attract more fans or anything like that. And, I'm sure there's never going to be really money behind it because,
I don't know about that.
They're making a decent living, these kids playing this.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about. No, I'm not. I'm talking about if we physically wanted to bet money, like I want to join a $100 league and pick my players in a fantasy league.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just about to say.
Just for casino
they're just
purposes.
Kind of screwing around with it, Like they just kind of
exactly.
That's why it's only for like a T-shirt. They wanted to see how it'll do if people really get into it. Maybe.
Plus, you got to keep in mind this is on a website that probably doesn't have the legal means to actually.
That's exactly.
But
they just have their small group or whatever followers.
A site like DraftKings or FanDuel picks this up.
I just don't think there's enough content, enough games and enough popularity.
But dude,
they're
my problem is I
What's
think
your
there's
problem? Dave's got a problem.
Not my problem. It's not my problem. I'm of age, but that spoils it a little bit. Here's the thing: is there's going to be so many kids that are under the age of 21.
That
trying to
play.
Yeah, so
well, that's what the Winston's Lab shit is for, because you don't need to be.
That's cool. The fact that you win a jersey, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. I like that a lot.
Doing that. Plus, you can always do the classic fucking. Oh, Dad, you play fantasy football on DraftKings. Do you want to throw me $5 so I can bet on Overwatch and we'll split the money or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure there could still be ways for kids to do it, because right now I've seen that they have League of Legends. I want to say I've seen that on DraftKings and I think on sports betting, just straight up betting.
Really?
League of Legends.
League of Legends is on DraftKings?
League of Legends is probably I don't know if it's still the most popular esport game right now, but it's definitely one of the most popular. So
I can't believe DraftKings it doesn't really surprise me. It's so popular, but that is crazy that casinos are picking, online casinos, whatever you want to call them, online betting
and
sites.
And fantasy betting websites, whatever
the
fuck.
Yeah, that's crazy that they're picking it up. I like that a lot.
Try to get a buck anywhere, man. They just got to get them entries, you know what I mean? Small
I think it's
payouts.
a good idea.
The way that they make them, you know what I mean? You got to have like 150 people or 200 people, and they just make sure they calculate it to where just X amount.
I think the way
they win their money back, everybody's happy.
The fact that you're winning a jersey, that's cool as shit. Yeah. I think they should just continue it. Overwatch makes plenty of money where they can afford to give away a free prize every week, whatever it is. I think they should continue that, a jersey or maybe even
that's
more value.
Definitely a cool start. But Winston's Lab eventually. I hope this idea branches off into fucking real fantasy sports betting, because I think it'd be a lot of fun.
It would.
Just for an extra thing to play every week along with our fantasy football, you know what I mean? So
you got to be super into watching competitive Overwatch.
Yeah, even if you're not though. Like I've never watched one game of League of Legends, but I threw fucking $2 on a League of Legends team just saying. Yeah, it's because you know how it is on fantasy or any fantasy website. It just it shows you like their average stats for whatever specific category you are in. So it's all about just try to get the players with the highest stats with what money you got.
Yeah, exactly. Easy
so
to set up.
Like you fucking. Haven't you bet on like random shit like hockey?
I've done like basketball, and hockey, and stuff.
Well, when live betting was big, we were jumping on tennis. We were betting on almost anything live.
Different. Live betting.
Yeah, that is. But still, we were betting on all types of different stuff, even just regular bets. Like the odds were so good for like NASCAR and just random things that we were just throwing a couple dollars here and there, just to try getting lucky.
I honestly think there's a strong market in just fantasy betting right now itself, and like if you offer another option for those people on those sites, they're gonna fucking
Because people are already on the site, they already have money in their accounts,
Exactly.
they're already on it checking
it's
it.
just like, oh, here's another
Yeah.
thing I could
It's
potentially
not hard
make
to
money
just
Gambling
throw a
itself is
notification, like,
addictive,
oh,
so I
play
mean,
free
hey, why
game.
not add one more thing that more people branch out? You know, casinos are branching out.
DraftKings, if you're listening, we want some royalties for this
Yeah.
idea. Even though we're Winston's Lab, technically. Help somebody out. Winston's Lab or us. Preferably us. So, on the gaming subject, any other games? I mean, we're still waiting for Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, we're waiting for it, pre-ordered and waiting. That's coming out in a couple days.
So
actually,
anxiously
so
waiting 3 days as of right now. We're waiting on that game.
I've just been powering through some Fortnite while I'm waiting for Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, been playing
Been playing a
Fortnite,
lot more.
Overwatch, you know, the
Well, I
traditional.
mean, on Fortnite they did, release a C4s, and I don't think that's
Llama,
it.
The infamous,
Oh yeah, the
Oh,
llamas.
which I've already found 2 of. Very lucky to find them.
And, I mean, you want to go into... Is there any fucking story to these llamas, or, you know...
I mean, supposedly they're just like, fucking, they're the shit. I mean, everybody wants them.
Well, I mean,
they
you're-
drop 3 on the map. That's it. Like, they're at each spawn.
Oh,
I
that's-
guess is
that's what it
random.
is, is 3
I'm
of
pretty
them?
sure. Yeah, that's what I've heard. They drop
Okay.
3 that like randomly throughout the time, every time, and you find them, and they literally give you like 500 of each material, and you'll get some consumables like 3 traps and stuff. Like it stacks you up on ammo and all the
hooks you up.
materials and everything. Yeah, no guns, but it
Just the fact that people don't farm any materials as is, and
Yeah,
you
it's
get
just-
down to the last 10 and you have no materials and you lose the game because of no materials, it's a good idea.
It don't
That's
shine like
smart.
a chest or nothing. It's just like a small pinata looking llama, and you go over and it takes like 5 seconds to search it, and then it spits it
I
all
mean,
out.
just the fact that it's a llama, that's fucking cool that they added.
And materials, man. I mean, you don't got to
goddamn.
make a lot of noise. You just have them now. You're
Yep.
good. So it's
Exactly.
definitely. I mean, when you come across them, but they're kind of rare. Apparently.
I mean, you came across the one, and it was a good thing that you had all the materials, because you just got into a build-off
Yeah,
with the most
and you-
serious player
yeah.
that you've come across.
Yeah, the building's a big part in Overwatch, and once you start getting good at
You
that,
mean Fortnite.
Overwatch, getting confused. Yeah, it's Fortnite.
It's all blending
Building,
together,
yeah.
folks. But
They
yeah,
also-
other than that,
I mean, they added the C4s. They're cool, but I mean, it's at the point where they're just adding new guns just to add them. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
eventually you're gonna be able to pick any type of real life gun. I feel like, and it'll be in the game.
It's good though. I'm glad they're updating. You know what I mean? It's just.
And you were
It's
saying
fun,
something
man.
about they got rid of smoke grenades, which I'm very
Yeah, so I
excited
just
about
read a
that.
little bit ago, since they put out the detonating ones, they kind of just did away with the smoke grenades, at least for now, which is kind of cool. I mean, they're kind of just in the way. I mean,
They're
smoke grenades,
trash.
you know?
I mean, nobody. The fact
Especially
that you
off
can
the
build.
start when then people grab them and you got a whole building that's smoked out for like 5
All right, hold on,
minutes.
hold on. I was actually just
Oh,
about to
shit.
transition that. My favorite thing to do with smoke grenades is troll my own team.
No,
is
my
get
God.
them, us find a fresh building that we have to loot, and then just throwing 5 smoke grenades where nobody can loot for like a solid 2 minutes. I mean, you
Completely
know,
disrupts everything.
yeah, it's screwing my teammates over, but I mean, it's,
Ah,
you
who
know,
cares?
it's fun
Fuck it.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that, games that we've been playing, not much else. Played fucking Cluster Truck slightly. And,
Cluster Trucks.
I just hopped off an amazing run of FTL. I'm killing it in FTL, and I just hopped off potentially a game-winning run.
Yeah.
But yeah, anybody who knows FTL knows that game's very hard. But yeah, other than that, games that we've been playing, not much else. Games coming up, Dave.
Oh yeah, Far Cry 5 coming out.
Far Cry 5. So
The Far Cry's
We're-
are all good, man. Every one of them.
all of us are big fans of the Far Cry series. I started at Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4 I played, obviously. Far Cry Blood Dragon, the spin-off of that. You played Far Cry Primal for a real long
yep.
time. You played
I've pretty much played the ones that you
3 and 4.
played.
Everyone that I had,
Except
Jonathan played.
the one with the dinosaurs I did not play. It looks fun though.
Yeah.
That's the blood one, right? The blood.
Yeah. Fucking,
With I didn't even look into that
Yeah.
too much.
It
Dude.
was
You
like
know
a
what?
side game they did, dude. Like
Yeah.
undercover, like
well,
not very popular.
maybe that'll be fucking...
That'd be a good let's play.
That's, yeah, well, and speaking of, I think this week is when I'm going to drop the first actual squad play video. Probably going to be me and you playing Tecmo. But yeah, look forward to that series of us actually playing games instead of just talking about them here on the Squadcast and you're not seeing any gameplay
Yeah,
footage.
there's gonna be a lot of gameplay.
So yeah, Far Cry 5, going back to it.
One of the biggest things that I really liked about it, and it's real similar to Sea of Thieves, is the fact that they got rid of. I'm not sure if they got rid of the map altogether, but the mini map
There's
is
got to
gone.
be a total
The
map
mini map
these
is
days.
gone, and from what I'm assuming, I think it's similar to the Sea of Thieves, where you can look at a map, but it's stuck on a table, and you pretty much look at it, plan on, okay, I'm gonna look at my compass, I'll go whatever direction, and
Well, no, it'll be like a menu that you open up. Because now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure Assassin's Creed Origins, I don't think that game has a mini map. Or it might, if it does, it's like a really simple mini map, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't. and it's all about like open up the big map, plot where you're going, get there, and then it's similar to Far Cry. Like in Far Cry, you had the camera that you zoom in and you mark all your enemies. In Assassin's Creed, you have your eagle that flies around that marks all the enemies.
And then Primal, you had the owl. Yup.
Yeah, but I don't know. I do. You say you prefer the mini map?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, not
Well,
having to go into a menu to check the map. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't know map at all. Honestly, I want a set map where you can go to your headquarters or wherever your safe zone is. You can check your map. Maybe a compass. Maybe it seems like it's based in the 21st century, so you should have a compass or whatever. But
I think it's set in the near future, actually.
I just feel like that's just going out of your way to make the game like unnecessarily.
But it makes it more real in a sense where you have to explore and you can't just look. Okay, there's a stronghold over here. It doesn't. I think it's.
See, now I'm more in the middle ground of you two. So symbolically, I'm sitting here in the middle.
Because if you just say the map spawns in, you're in kind of an awkward place and it's like kind of tricky. So you just, even if you've been there a bunch of times, you don't have it on the maps. You're gonna be getting confused and low. I don't know. I just think it's unnecessary. I mean,
I think it's mini map. I think it's okay if you don't have a mini map.
But it's Far Cry. It's gonna be fucking good no matter what.
It's okay if you don't have a mini map. If you have, like I said, a map that you can just open up in the menu, so you're not completely lost at all times. You have at least a relative knowledge of where you're at, and being able to zoom in to a good amount. That's because that's a main thing on certain maps. Like every fucking map these days is obviously gigantic.
Yep.
So it starts out letting you see the entire fucking map, and then it's all about a matter of how much it actually lets you zoom in to where you're fucking at on the thing to see what detail you got. But I would like a map in the menus. If you don't have a mini map actually in the game, I don't think that's a problem if you have a feature in Far Cry like you do where you can mark enemies. Because then it's not like you're creeping through the base and you're trying to be stealthy, and then somebody sneaks right up on you from behind and you have no idea they was there. As long as you're good about going in and marking everybody before you get there, you're going to know where they're all at, even without a mini-map.
I'm all for
what time period is this taking place in?
Like I said, I think it's set in like the near... I'm not 100%
It seems like it's at least the 21st century, because what it seems like is, what I got from the trailer is that you're infiltrating some type of cult, some type of like religious crazy cult, and you either take them down or you have to rescue somebody from I'm assuming you actually have to rescue somebody from the cult.
Could be
yeah, but I mean,
well, the thing is too, it's set in America. Like all these other ones, like Far Cry 3 was set in nondescript Pacific Island, and
it seems like it's
Far Cry 4 was
seems like it's post-apocalyptic. Like America.
That's
what
I'm saying. I think that's why that's why I think it's set in the near future, to where it's like. I think this is what I got from the trailer, is that this cult leader that you're talking about, because like I think, like Dave said, you are infiltrating a cult from what it seems, and this cult leader has taken over a section of like the American South and is kind of running shit in there, and it's kind of like lawless, and I guess since the country is like broken down and it's like martial law or whatever, that's why he's allowed to fucking take over this territory, fucking king style, but. I think it's a cool setting. Honestly,
a really weird similarity I thought about, but is it not similar to like the governor in The Walking Dead? Like that town, kind of, sort of?
But that's a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, without the zombies, of course, with just crazy humans.
Apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, potato.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, any other thoughts on Far Cry 5?
Another thing I saw that they were getting rid of is the towers, is the fact that you don't have to climb a tower to unlock more parts of the map.
That's interesting.
It's just explore and you unlock it. Like, I like that a lot.
Okay, I like that. Now, all right, I like that. I think there's been games before like that where it's literally just like, there's a certain bubble around your character, and as you walk, that bubble clears out on the map. I'm sure you've played games like that too.
A game we used to hate, or a game that we don't play anymore, is very similar to like that.
What's that?
EOS or ESO.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, that is like that.
I mean, you literally had to walk and get the Wayshires or Wayshrines.
Now, all right, so. That feature, blah, 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 if that's how it's working, I like that, but then that leaves that fucking, like, say you're exploring the map, going one way, you go back, you explore the fuck out of that one little section that you didn't, there's always going to end up being them little pockets on the map that you got to go explore. And I mean, most of the time it's worthless shit. Like, you can look up where everything's at, but there's gonna be that one occasion every now and then where there's that little secret in a pocket that you didn't find.
Yeah,
or
like,
whatever.
Minecraft when you're first discovering.
Exactly like Minecraft.
What if they just make it something where it's you have your map and it's marked by A through Z down one side, 1 through 10 through the other side, and they make squares on the map where if you enter that section of the square, the whole square is revealed.
Grid
like
style.
a grid style, exactly.
Kind of
Would that work?
we
Maybe.
spent all this time talking about the maps of this game. I have to be honest with you.
What do you mean?
I feel like we're putting a little bit too much thought into the maps here. You know?
Well, maps are a big part of games nowadays. In general.
The fact that they got rid of a mini map is a bit, it's a big deal.
That is a big thing.
Yeah, it can change the game.
Like I said, how many games do we log on now where it's like you fucking hop in, it's just a huge ass open world. Like there's not open world games are just the norm now. Every AAA game seems like it's an open world game. There's very few like linear kind of games where it's like you start at the level and finish the level.
Yeah.
So Far Cry 5 beat it to death, according to Jonathan.
Beat it to death.
So transitioning from cults to entertainment, blah blah blah. There's a Netflix documentary series that dropped like 2 days ago that I seen on Reddit. There's a trailer for it, and it's like, oh, it comes out tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Forgot about it. Watch it the next day. Or watch the first episode of it the next day. It's called Wild Wild Country. Now, I've only watched the first episode of it. Don't know a lot about it. That's what I meant to say. It seems interesting as fuck, though. It's basically about this, like, cult. Or, I mean, no air quotes. It is pretty much a cult. From like, there's like this Swami guy, like Indians. Have you seen them? Like Indian gurus. Do you remember that? Actually, do you remember the one Louis Theroux episode about where he goes to India and he's hanging out with?
Yeah.
It's one of them type of people. Like,
but it's based in the United States or?
Well, listen to this. This is what the whole first episode sets this up. Like there's a Swami guy, like one of them gurus, like fucking, and if anybody's seen the Louis Theroux documentary on gurus, I'd definitely recommend that. Maybe we can talk about Louis Theroux a little bit.
Oh, we could
this too. But so these gurus, like they do this Indian shit, and like there's always a mass of people following these fucks or whatever. But this guy was like super controversial for his time in the 60s, talking about sex and like branching off from like traditional Orthodox Hinduism that Gandhi brought in, or blah blah blah. There's like history to why he fucking became actually so popular. But anyway, becomes really popular, gets all these fucking like thousands of followers. All these people are donating money and helping him out. They fucking are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they like set up their own little bank kind of deal.
Wow.
They have all these people coming in that fucking like live on this little area where they're hanging out, and fucking eventually like the dude, what the hell's his name? Osho is the guy's name. Osho. His actual name is some fucking Indian name that I can't remember right now. I've only watched one episode, so I'm not fucking all up to date on this. His goal was to basically create like the new super person, combining, the best ideas of the Western culture with the best ideas of the Eastern culture, and blah blah blah, and we're gonna make a super community. And their plan basically became like, all right, we're gonna go find somewhere, a giant plot of land somewhere. I think they ended up getting like 60,000 acres or somewhere.
Wow.
Like looking for it wherever. And eventually they decided that they're gonna go to America, because in India, while they were getting super popular, like the government was getting pissed off at them, and there was people like trying to fucking like attack them and shit like that. So in India, shit was popping off, and they needed to get out of there. So they decided they're going to America because religious freedom and blah blah blah. They end up buying 60,000 acres or some shit like that in Oregon and setting up like a fucking pretty much town. Like they like came up with the plans for and mapped out a complete town that there is going to be like the new super community. And really, that's all that's gone into so far on the first episode.
And this is a Netflix exclusive?
This is a Netflix series. It's 6 episodes. It starts out with just, like, interviewing some of the people that were around at the time. And it's, like, they're all just talking about, like, yeah, this is just a quiet... It's Antelope, Oregon is the name of the town, I'm pretty sure. And they're like, oh, it's a quiet town, blah, 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 pretty isolated. And they show, like, a helicopter shot of the town. It's literally, like, one road in. It's, like, surrounded by mountains, another road out, just tiny-ass little town. And fucking they say like, yeah, well, one day I just see this random guy dressed kind of nice in the street. I go up and talk to him, and he's like, oh, there's people coming, blah blah blah. There's gonna be so much more people coming. You wait and see, blah blah blah. Next thing they know, like 2 weeks later, they see fucking trucks bringing in like full, like the job trailers where it's like kind of swagged out trailer with like siding and even has like a little roof on it, like that the Supers have. They were bringing in just like trucks of them and all kinds of fucking building equipment. And then they find out that this guy had bought one of the ranches that was, like I said, fucking 60,000 acres, whatever the fuck. Whoa. Tom, what are you doing over there? But anyway, and they see fucking this, like, they show footage of this fucking, like, red carpet fucking revealing of when this Swami dude finally comes to the town, and there's people, like, bowing at his feet. They literally roll out the red carpet for him. He pulls up in his fucking Rolls Royce that apparently is, like, armor plated and shit. Like, it seems very, very interesting, and I can't wait to watch more of the series and talk about more of it.
Yeah,
but
and so you're following people in the community, or who are you following? Mainly?
It's just following the story in chronological order right now. Like, it's setting up. All it did is set up how they basically bought the community in Oregon, and now like they just moved. They just moved Osho there, and that's the thing too is like there's this bitch. I forget the fuck her name is like Sheena or I forget her name, but she like eventually somehow like kind of became the person that's really in charge with this dude. Like apparently it's implied that they were fucking kinda, and like it's really weird too is there's this one part where she talks about how like when she first went to America when she was younger, she went to like study in Jersey actually, which is kind of weird. And she met this fucking one dude who, blah, 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 fall in love, they're going out, but he had some fucking disease. And, like, after 13 years, like, and this is at the point when she's deeply ingrained with this fucking Swami dude, and she's, like, becoming, like, one of the higher-ups in his little circle of power, or whatever you fuck want to call it.
Yeah.
He's like, she's pretty much the one running the show at a certain point. Like, she gets power of attorney and everything. Her fucking husband, like, dies of his disease or whatever. And they're showing, like, footage of, like, I guess the funeral procession. And they're carrying the dude out on, like, a board covered in flowers with his body on there. And you see the bitch, and she's just, like, smiling. Like, and she's describing, like, oh, the Swami told me that, like, I shouldn't shed tears in front of whatever the fuck his name was because it would make his death bad. So it's, like, they show footage of her, and she's just creepily just smiling the whole time. So it seemed like already it seems like kind of weird because they're hinting at later. Like all they've done is like shown random clips and little blah 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 here, but apparently there's like poisonings that end up happening. You see like they're showing clips of people with guns and shit. They said that there's this one clip where they're saying this is like the massive or biggest wiretapping case that the FBI has ever dealt with. So there's definitely shit about to pop off in this little town of Oregon because of this fucking Osho guy.
The crazy thing to think about is how many cults there really are that, nobody really, like journalists have never exposed. Because the only cult that I've ever known of really was the Church of Scientology. And other than that...
You've never heard of any other cults? You don't know about Jonestown and stuff?
Which Jonestown?
The Jim Jones, this is probably one of the most famous cults, is fucking Jim Jones, who was like a preacher here in America and was a super charismatic guy, apparently. Like
that got all his like disciples to drink some type of poison.
Yeah, got all his disciples to move down to South Guyana, and they started up their own little community called Jonestown. And then reporters came there to basically check the shit out, and they found out that like, on the outside, everything looked cool, but the more they looked into it, they found out that, like, the people were kind of, like, working in slave labor kind of conditions to build the town, and while Jim Jones is living all high and mighty. And when they go to leave at the airport, they get fucking attacked by Jim Jones's, like, troops. Like, they pull up with machine guns and shoot the motherfuckers, and there's footage of it. It's fucking crazy.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And after that happens, Jim Jones gets on the loudspeaker and tells everybody in the town, like, yo, they're coming for us. We're going to heaven, blah, blah, blah.
They're out with a bang.
Well, he just tells everybody to commit mass suicide, pretty much. And they all fucking drink the fucking Kool-Aid, is the famous quote, because they use Kool-Aid to poison everybody. And, like, It's just crazy shit. Like thousands of people ended up dying and fucking.
I've heard about that, but I mean like current cults, like seeming like this one in Oregon is.
The only other current cult, I guess you could say.
Isn't I mean you could almost say the KKK is considered a cult, right?
I guess technically.
I mean, so there are modern
Although
cults.
it's not really a religious kind of cult.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
another cult you could say though is the Westboro Baptist Church people. Another Louis Theroux.
I've actually forgot about that called one of the craziest cults ever.
Yeah, that's a good modern cult going.
Too.
I like cults to like watch. You know what I mean? I would never want to be a part of a cult.
Yeah, no, they're crazy. It's just interesting that people can be so gullible and do these crazy things and fall for it. And
I know it's
live that
fucking
life.
crazy, but every time they talk to these people afterwards, it's always people saying like, "Oh yeah, like I was just coming out of my parents had kicked me out. I didn't know where I was going in the world, or like I just got a divorce. I needed help in my life."
People that just feel like
That's
it's
exactly.
Purpose. It's a
That's what
purpose,
cult
man.
they prey on vulnerable people.
Just
in
feel like they're a
general.
part of something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Exactly.
Yep.
Because that's just such a big thing of being human in general.
And
just
then you
feeling
get
like
so
part of a
deep
team.
where it's just that's your way of life. Like especially once you start having kids in it and shit. 'Cause then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well now
You
that
get
kid's like
ingrained.
owned to it. Yeah. So it's like you're just in so deep. There's no getting out now.
And then it's like if you get in and you like at first you think it's all good, but then you're there so long and realize that it's fucked up, and like you said, you become so ingrained. It's like I can't leave because then it's uprooting my entire life. Like people think that they can't even survive in the outside world at that point. I don't know. Cults are
Very
fucking crazy.
interesting.
But I definitely Wild Wild Country on Netflix seems like a pretty fucking great movie about
Gotta
or a
love
great
Netflix,
series
man.
about a cult.
Netflix always is having the good stuff come out, man. Always.
Other entertainment news, you've been watching Flash again.
Oh
and shit
man,
recently.
Flash is one of my favorite shows, man. It's big on the CW, man. The Flash is always doing some crazy shit, week in and week out.
I know I haven't watched any of the Flash, but to its credit,
Slacking
I gotta
for
say,
seasons now. I've been trying to recommend
but there's
Flash.
so much shit I need to watch. I finally watched Stranger Things after like fucking 2 years of
Yeah, I
not
haven't
watching
got
that.
to that
I only
yet.
watched the first season too. I haven't even watched.
I
the second
watched
season.
all the Marvel things on Netflix. Honestly, I watched them all. I can say that I watched through Jessica Jones. You watched through that. Jessica Jones is
Jessica
coming out with a
Jones.
second one. I think it's out right now. I think they have a full season of Jessica
could be
Jones coming
good,
out.
'cause
I wasn't a big fan of the first one. Don't get me wrong. Out of all the
I
other
liked
ones,
it.
it was good. Out of all the other ones, it was pretty
I thought
good.
it next to like probably the first season of Daredevil.
The first season of Daredevil, I feel like is like set apart from the rest.
You go
honestly.
first season of Daredevil, first season of Jessica Jones for me.
Yeah,
because I
you
thought
haven't
Jessica
watched
Jones
the
was
Punisher
pretty
though.
strong.
You haven't watched the Punisher.
No, I need to watch the
is-
Punisher.
yeah, it's like first Daredevil,
Although,
Punisher, second Daredevil.
I might end up hating the Punisher because the Punisher is one of my favorite fucking. At least the Garth Ennis run in Punisher Max. One of the best Punisher series ever.
The writing and
Recommend
the
it.
acting, man, and the Punisher, you'll like it. Trust me, they do a really good job. Like the Punisher is fucking ruthless and just oh man, some of the stuff that he puts his body through and just. Oh, it's intense, man. All the shit he was doing in Daredevil 2, but it's just him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like basically,
Which he
gets
was the
caught up-
strongest part of Daredevil season 2. Honestly.
He gets caught up with another CIA spook, and they're kind of in like a huge conspiracy. You know what I mean? To where they look like the bad guys, obviously, or whatever. And he kind of has to team up with this guy. You know what I mean? The CIA spook, and he goes through and he's uncovering stuff, and it's like deep into the government and shit. And it's just a lot of killing, a lot of blood and guts. It's gory.
What's the name?
Some intense fight
What's
scenes.
any of the names of his little partners?
I honestly couldn't even remember. They weren't like I don't know.
Nobody named Micro shows up.
Micro, yeah, Micro.
He's in it?
Micro,
Okay.
okay.
Micro's
Yeah. So that must be some deep Punisher lore, I guess.
Well, he's one of the few recurring characters.
Micro,
in
yeah,
Punisher.
that's the CIA spook who he has to work with, who's kind
He's
of in the
usually-
same conspiracy as him.
In the comic books, Micro is usually Punisher's like tech guy. Like if
Yeah.
he needs somebody.
I'll tell you what,
to-
they have like a funny relationship, kind of where they kind of hate each other, whatever, and it's like kind of that funny, quirky kind of
Yeah,
like
that's
always
how it's
fighting with
usually.
each other and shit, and like he's kind of calling him a bitch because he kind of just sits behind the computers and does all that shit or whatever. But he gets them out in the field and they get themselves into some shit, and it's pretty intense, man. I'm telling you, the Punisher's a real good series, and the actor who plays him, I can't remember his name.
John Bernthal.
Bernthal, yeah, he is really good. He's
From
a Walking
Walking
Dead.
Dead.
That's kind of where he got his claim to fame. But
Which after he left the show,
Phenomenal Punisher.
Walking Dead started to get a lot weaker
Yeah.
after he left the show.
yeah,
Quite
it
honestly.
was a phenomenal Punisher, though. It was really
Yeah,
good to
he
watch.
does a real good job, I gotta say. But Flash though, you were telling me about a banger episode.
Yeah,
might as well talk to the people about it.
The most recent episode I watched last night, I actually finished it up. It was basically so the Flash wasn't going against any villains or anything. It's basically that he found some common criminals and they actually set off a nuclear bomb. So the bomb actually like went off. So the Flash, he can run fast enough to where everything else is kind of sitting still. And there was another speedster from a different Earth that was there. Her name is Jesse Quick. You know what I mean? So they were there running.
Quick, eh?
So basically, you see the nuclear bomb had gone off, like it's already starting to react. It's like its first stage or whatever. Now they're running at a super speed to where everybody else is sitting still, and then like they're trying to figure out how to stop it so the whole city don't go up. So like one by one, they're kind of grabbing their friends, and they can kind of make them move at that same speed, so you can kind of talk to them, like as everybody else is still frozen in time. You know what I mean?
Kind of like.
Yeah.
Have you seen that episode of Futurama where Fry drinks all the coffees and he's running around like saving people from the fire?
Oh shit! No, I don't think I did.
It sounds kind of similar to that.
But literally
honestly.
just have everybody frozen. You know what I mean? That's like they're running faster than everybody else. So basically, the Flash is like, all right, you go to Earth 3 and get Jay Garrick. He's got to figure out this. So they're like one by one, kind of going to their friends, like the main team. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, like this shit went off, and they're showing them, and they're kind of trying to think of ideas and what to do, but the regular people can't stay in the Speed Force that long, like move at that rate. So eventually, one by one, so the older speedster is basically like, all right, I can't run this fast anymore. And like he kind of like he gets frozen in time because he can't keep that pace up. You know what I mean? So they lose him, and like you see the Flash is starting to panic, and then Jessie Quick, the second speedster, the girl, her body couldn't run that fast anymore. So then she gets frozen in time. Now the nuclear bomb is like
just dropping off one by one.
And the nuclear bomb this whole time is actually speeding up to where it's like at its like third reaction stage. You know what I mean? And like Barry Allen, the Flash, is starting to slow down, so the process is speeding up. Like he's
so things are just getting
and you could see it in his face. It was honestly some of the best acting out of all 3 seasons I've seen this show. Like
and you were
could
saying
see the
early
despair in
on,
his face, man. Like,
I remember you telling me early on in season 1 that the one thing about the show is the acting's a little kind of cheesy, but that's I
third
guess,
season in, dude, they're getting better. They have such a chemistry together.
That's
you know?
the thing. When you got a show and you got actors that are just constantly working together, eventually they're gonna get that.
That's why I was
chemistry.
so
It's just gonna
upset
get
that
better.
this version of the Flash on the CW wasn't transferred over to the new DC movies. they're coming
Why
out with.
not? All you got to do is hire TV fucking actors. You don't gotta hire these big name.
What they
actors.
wanted in the Flash, like they already had a suit, a nice ass suit. They already had the actor. They already had the backstory. They already got Star Labs. They have everything right there for him. They could have used it, and he would have been way better than the kid in the Flash. Like it was just, I don't know. It's DC.
What did you think of the Flash
and
and the Justice League? Have you seen it?
I seen it. It was the Justice League was average. Long story short, Barry Allen eventually saves the day. That's the moral of the story. Barry
get
Allen,
back to the fucking
my man
forward.
Barry Allen, like, cause he was gonna throw the nuclear
Long story
bomb.
short, Barry Allen saves
Yeah,
the
saves the day. That's what he always does. But it was some of the best acting, and it was intense because it wasn't an enemy. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a boss fight. It's like they're kind of taken away from the main story, I guess, for a second. There's always like the main villain throughout all the seasons, but there's always side metas that are popping up. You know what I mean? And they're always adding to the team. And like one character, like they'll be like there's different parallel universes, like different Earths, you know what I mean? So there's these characters play multiple people throughout, you know what I mean? Like Barry Allen's dad, who got murdered earlier in the seasons, his actor still is Jay Garrick, another Flash from different Earths. So you're like, so they all play different characters. Like Barry Allen will be directly interacting with another Flash from a different Earth. You know what I mean? One of the main villains for a whole entire season was a different version of Barry Allen through the timelines that have gotten mixed up. You know what I mean? Because Barry Allen is, when the super speed lets him go back in time and change whatever he wants.
To go into deep Flash lore.
So he did it. You know, Flash is like my, like, I don't know.
You're deep
go
into it, and you didn't even care about Flash really going into it. So which is
exactly.
a testament to how
it's
good
made
the
me
show
like
is.
the Flash, and now I've like even like seen some comics online and stuff, and just seeing all the lore and shit about it. Like the Flash.
There's a couple good Flash
because
comics.
just what he can do with his speed. You know what I mean? Like he's on a different level with everybody.
Flash, as far as comics
There's
go,
so many good storylines with the Flash, man.
Well, that's the thing. There is some deep Flash lore, like storylines and whatever, but I will say, as far as comic books go, the best shit about the Flash is whenever he's involved with the Justice League or like other shit like that. But to branch off kind of what from you were saying, I think what's best part of that show, and not even having watched it, I think it does a really good job of keeping that comic book feel of, like you said, there's like the main boss, aka your main story arc, but in between each individual comic is telling its own story, usually in a comic book story arc. Even if it's going 6 issues, Spider-Man is still dealing with different things.
I have to say real quick to wrap up the Flash, though, one of my biggest pet peeves, what it is. So now the guy DeVoe, he's like their big villain right now, and he's like just like super smart, but he's pretty much human. You know, he just enhances his brain to where he's like rides around on like kind of like a Mobius chair, kind of is what kind of is keeping him alive, and he's kind of going from body to body to these other metas. But what really is like my biggest pet peeve is like Barry Allen gets his ass kicked every time, and it's like the most asinine ways, and you're like, dude, you literally just ran around for a whole entire episode while a nuclear bomb was like reacting. You know what I mean? In that time, You could literally just grab this guy up and just bring him to you could bring him 6 fucking worlds over and never fucking realize it. You know what I mean? Just leave him there. It's just they keep it going. Yeah,
they're booking their baby face to look stupid for the
so they
heel
made
to
it
get heat.
need like the Flash needs his buddies. You know what I mean? This fucking Stretch Armstrong. He's a knockoff Fantastic Four Stretch guy.
Is it Mr. Plastic Man?
Yeah. I think it actually might. They haven't called him Plastic Man or whatever.
There's Plastic Man and there's another fucking Stretch guy in DC. But
yeah, the Flash, he could just literally just grab this guy, bring him 6 worlds over, and go about his fucking day, dude. Like, be fucking his bitch by the end of the episode. Like,
they're booking him bad to get the heel heat. But
one of my favorite shows, The Flash.
Last fucking entertainment topic, probably fucking to branch off into another comic book show, and Dave's actually seen this one, so maybe he'll talk for the next 5 minutes. Fucking Preacher.
I'm glad you brought.
We haven't even talked about Preacher. I'm surprised
because it's off. It's not really in season, but I'm waiting for it.
I'll let you guys, Dave. You don't really, know probably the least.
I haven't watched. Honestly, I can't really bring up too much because I've only seen bits and pieces. I've actually never watched full episodes through. It was literally bits and pieces of episodes.
Of what you've seen, did it look interesting or?
I mean, from what it seems, yeah, it seems like one of the more interesting comics. Well, that they made into a TV series. I'd probably pick it up, but I mean, like I said, I cannot say too much on it.
Jonathan, your opinions on the show?
I went into this without reading any of the comics. I seen the first episodes of Preacher. Or did we see 2 seasons now?
That's 2 seasons.
Yeah, 2 seasons. And after I went and seen the 2 seasons, I was like, man, I got to read the comics. And the comics there's so much they can't put in the show because
it's just so
it's
graphic.
A different level.
And
it's crazy. There's like 5 different comics. You know what I mean? So. I like the show a lot. They do a great job of like putting a face on the words, to the comics and stuff. And that was kind of good. I kind of actually liked how I seen the show first, to get kind of the characters in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
give a voice
to
the
voices
characters
and stuff. So now when I'm watching, I'm seeing like the actors from the Preacher. Like my favorite is Cassidy, man, the vampire Cassidy.
Yeah,
the Preacher is a very it's a show on AMC that you can literally just go and just watch even without even reading the comics or anything like that. It's just an off the wall crazy show. You know what I mean?
As someone who read the comics, and honestly, it's probably my favorite comic book series that I've ever read. And that switches a lot with me, but Preacher is one of the ones that usually stays at number 1 just because it's such a unique, interesting story. The characters all talk like actual people, like most of the time. It's funny. It's fucking blasphemous, which is always great for me personally.
Yeah, it's raw.
So, going in, watching the show, I will say I'm very mixed on the show as a big fan.
Because you had expectations of reading the comics beforehand. You had certain things you wanted to see, certain things you wanted to see on on the big screen. Which,
like you said, I think they did a good job of casting on this show. Jesse, fucking great. Whenever I think of Jesse now, I always think of the actual actor. I don't even think of the comic book image, really. Yeah. I always think of that voice, too. Like, that, he is Jesse.
They did that for me. Same with Cassidy, man. They did that for me.
Cassidy's good. Cassidy's good. Like I said, I think they did a good job casting. Tulip is good.
Tulip is kind of way more badass in the show than the comic. The comic, Tulip's a white girl, and she's kind of like, she's in the thick of things, but she's not like, I don't know, Tulip's badass in the show more, I feel like.
Tulip's thing in the comics is that she's good with guns, but a main theme in the comics that hasn't really translated to the show, along with a lot of things that haven't translated to the show, which I'll bitch about thoroughly.
Translated yet.
No, there's certain things that they've already botched. But Tulip, Jesse is always trying to get Tulip out of the danger. That's a big thing in the comics, and they argue about that a lot in the comics. That's the main thing that they fight about, is that she wants to be there to help him. He doesn't want to risk her getting hurt. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, the show. First season, as far as shit that happens in the comics, it covers the first 2 issues, probably. Nothing in the first season. It's like
they actually skipped ahead because they don't
in
go
just
to
one aspect. They skipped ahead. Then the Odin Quincannon kind of aspect.
They kind of got that out of the way.
They skipped ahead and put that there for some reason because I guess they felt they needed to. That doesn't happen until way later on in the comics when Jesse is by himself. Because, well, I'll get into spoilers for the comic probably. So first season feels almost like a pilot season. It doesn't even feel like a full season. It barely covers anything that happens in the comic, but it sets you up. So I will give it that. It sets everything up. Second season, they actually get into some of the stuff that they do in the comics, kind of, but it definitely feels like they're really trying to tell their own different version of the story. And honestly, I think it's a good variant of the story so far, but you're never gonna beat the original Preacher story. Like, fucking, in the comics, fucking first issue, they get out of Anvil and fucking are going and searching for shit. They skip past where they go to New York and meet Cassidy's friend. Well, that's a early, story arc in the comic book that I think is great, with the heel turn of fucking the dude that they're with. Fucking, you don't really expect that coming when you're reading that the first time. Good little twist and turn. The main thing that they've botched, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't read the comic, this is what pissed me off. What happens in the comics is, after they go to New York and Cassidy leaves, he goes a separate way for a little bit. Tulip and Jesse, they go off to search for God, because that's the whole theme of the show, is that Jesse... Though I don't even think we covered that.
Jesse has been gifted the power, like the word of God, basically. He can say to anybody and do whatever he says. They just automatically have no choice but to obey. That's his power. He kind of was gifted it, it kind of chose him or whatever, and now he's on a mission because God basically is missing.
Yeah.
God is missing. It's about angels and demons, and God is missing, and Jesse was gifted these powers, so his cocky ass who's looking for a purpose feels like, it's my job to find out where the fuck God is. And he's like raw, and he's a preacher, but he's like a bar fighting crazy, get the job done preacher. You know what I mean?
He fucking is on a quest to find God. He has the word, and like Jonathan said, people have to obey whatever he says, quite literally. I think there's a great scene early in the comics that they totally botched. Well, I don't know why they didn't put this in the first season, when it's such a great joke, of when he tells the cop early on to go fuck himself, and they leave, cut away to something else, and then they cut back, and the cop is in the ambulance, and they're telling his son, Arseface's dad, they're telling him fucking, oh yeah, he ripped his dick off and he shoved it up the rectum. We can't stop the bleeding, blah, blah, blah. I think he's going to live. And then he fucking asks for his gun and shoots himself in the head right there. Yeah. Like, such a great
raw
opening
dog
scene.
Their variation of that was a guy kept coming to the preacher and was asking him about some bullshit problem. The preacher kind of got annoyed. He was in a bad mood, so he turned around and he used the word on him, and he said, just go there and pour your heart out to her. It was like the guy's mom or something.
That was in the first episode.
Yeah, it was go out there and pour your heart out to her or whatever, whatever. Yeah. So he goes and it cuts to him.
Go out there and open your heart.
Yeah, it cuts to him later having a conversation at some fucking some old lady. Yeah, and he literally cuts his heart out and hands to her and dies on the table or whatever. Because whatever the word tells you is you do it literally.
It was way funnier of the rip the penis off and shoved it up his own ass, and then he shoots himself in front of his son. Way more raw, way more funny.
That's his power.
But yeah, that establishes his power. So yeah, get into that. They fucking are fleeing New York. Well, not fleeing New York. They left New York. They're searching for God. They get picked up by Jesse's family, which you find out Jesse's deep backstory about this crazy fucking...
A mini cult themselves.
Yeah, speaking of cults, tying back in the cults. His grandmother is basically the head of this kind of mini cult, which is only really just the family and these two other goons that they have working for him, which are just the goons that they set up for Jesse's grandmother's little cult there, brutal fucks. The one is also fucks everything that moves, he fucks chickens and shit too, which is fucked up, but there's lots of fucked up shit when they get into that part.
The preacher is off the wall. It's just crazy.
So anyway, you find out that Jesse, he escaped from that family, and now they've been looking for him, and now they found him. They bring him back. They get him and his girl, Tulip, in the house. He finds out that his word isn't working against him, too. So he's like, what the fuck? He can't make them do whatever he wants. They get in there, fucking... I'm not sure... This ends one of the issues. I'm not sure if it ends one of the big actual books. But the end of the issue is they fucking come in and fucking shoot Tulip in the fucking head.
They had them both tied up. They had
have
Tulip
them both tied up next
Jesse
to each other.
Tied up, and Jesse is pleading and crying and begging, and then they just blast her
They shoot her
in front
right through the fucking
And
head.
then God, who has actually been on the run. Remember, now mind you, we're deep into the story, just spoiling the shit.
This is
out of
only the
everything.
first book. It's not that. It's not that deep.
Well, God basically saves her and gives Tulip another life, and is like, listen, just I saved you, and I'm letting you go back to him. Tell him to leave me the fuck alone. Like basically
Yeah.
telling him like, don't look for me. Like I'm
He-
gone. Like don't. You're not gonna get blessed again.
You basically find out that God let Tulip get murdered right in front of Jesse just to send him a message,
Yep.
pretty much. And that's a big part of the comic. That happens multiple other times as God sends Jesse the message, don't look for me.
Yep.
Which, so far, I feel like they've completely fucking botched in the TV show because they've decided to have Tulip just get randomly shot by the Grail. So she gets randomly shot by the Grail, and they set up the fact that Jesse's grandmother isn't actually a religious cult. She's apparently some black magic voodoo fucking cult, and she has the power. They insinuate that she has the power to bring people back to life, and they also...
Oh yeah, it did end. The last season ended with Tulip getting shot.
Yeah,
right?
ended with Tulip getting shot and them driving up the driveway
To
that they
Anvil,
showed
yeah.
in the flashback. No, not to Anvil,
Oh.
to oh god, I forget the name of it. Real preacher fans are gonna fucking roast. Oh, you don't know the fucking name of the stupid fucking town. But whatever Jesse's grandmother's town is, you see her pulling up the driveway to that, and that's the end of the second season.
So they're gonna start it up with Jesse's family next season.
Yeah, but they've completely
gonna be
botched it
interesting.
because they've already changed everything. Like, and they've established that souls are an actual physical thing that you can take out of people.
Yeah,
and shit
that's
like
that's
that.
not really part.
That's
of
not in the comics at all.
Really.
Not in the comics at all. And just last topic on the comics. You say Cassidy's your favorite character, but you're kind of getting into the points of the comics where he's kind of slowly making the heel turn.
Yeah, he's kind of dick movish, and you can tell he's falling for Tulip and shit, trying to ruin a
Well,
friendship.
spoilers, there's a point happens in the comics where they think that Jesse fucking dies and Tulip is living...
Strung out on drugs.
Strung
just
out
getting
on
fucked by
drugs,
the vampire
living with Cassidy. And, you know, Cassidy's kind of keeping her fucked up because he's been secretly, like, in love with Tulip this whole time, blah, blah, blah. Great fucking comic. That's the thing. The story starts out as the God thing and slowly becomes more about the Cassidy and Jesse relationships. Excellent fucking comic. Go read it.
And watch the show.
So, I mean, running the sports topics real quick here. Or do you guys want to talk about Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, that's
Stephen Hawking died, unfortunately. But, you know, he lived a pretty good long life. Dave, Stephen Hawking, I'm sure you have many thoughts.
I mean, I don't have too much. I mean, you know, I don't want to be one of the dick riders that mourn Stephen Hawking's death, even though, you know,
Well-
I didn't pay too much great attention. I knew who he was, of
He was
course,
impressive.
but I
That's
mean,
what I got.
he
was
dude,
impressive.
the fact that you, like, 50 years ago, the guy, or even maybe we'll go back 100 years ago, the guy probably would have been dead way earlier on in his life 100 years ago. The fact that he achieved what he did, being a fucking dude that could only
Paraplegic,
he could
yeah.
only move one cheek muscle at one point, I'm pretty sure. That's how he was.
And dude, I actually seen a short video just scrolling through Facebook after he died. It kind of showed like before that happened, like he was like,
Yeah.
he had gone to college and like
Yeah,
he was like on
Met
like
his
a road,
wife,
he was
had
on like
3
a
kids.
he was on like a road team and shit. Like he was
Yeah.
fine, and then he literally just started.
He got Lou Gehrig's
He
disease.
started just like he would just pass out or like faint or like just fall like being weak or whatever. And he went to the doctor and like Dr. Joe kind of just like lay off the booze. And then I guess it progressed
Yeah, it
year
got
in and year
bad
out.
and
It got
fucked
bad.
up with his
But he always
bones
had
and
his
all that
mind,
shit.
you know what I mean? He was always fucking just...
On the topic of dick riders or whatever you want to call them.
yeah.
I seen something. The title of this on Reddit was like, the science community chimes in on the death of Stephen Hawking. But we have a quote from a true intellectual, Daniel Bobo Curlin. I've written this down word for word, gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
And keep in mind, there's no punctuation in this. Okay.
Hold on. Let me cut you off real quick. This was said on a
On
separate...
Twitter. This was said on Twitter.
Oh, okay, so he physically
He
typed
tweeted
it.
this.
Okay,
He tweeted
typed
this
it.
out himself.
Okay.
To comment on the death of Stephen Hawking. Daniel Bobo Curlin, famous for Opie and Anthony, Chip Chipperson podcast, and the Jim and Sam show, and Anthony Cumia network bullshit,
And for being a stooge.
and for being just a legend and
Yeah, a legend, Jonathan.
A legend, Jonathan. Okay. A great scientist, great man, great sense of humor with a debilitating disease, but didn't let him stop him from living life to the fullest, has died. R.I.P. Stephen Hawking, U.E. inspired us all. Daniel Bobo Curlin, everybody.
Showing love.
So yeah, that's Stephen Hawking, and you know, he's moved on to the cosmos.
Yeah.
But-
Running that shit.
To close out the podcast, I guess we'll talk about some sports and such. UFC 225.
Who's fighting?
Your comedy act of the year, CM Punk.
CM Punk's fighting who?
He is. I don't believe. I'm about to pull up the card right now.
I'd put your money on CM Punk and his ass.
CM
whooped.
Punk against to be decided. Main event is Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. Okay, so this is definitely a buying. This is worthy of a buy. You want to read through the rest of that?
Yeah, okay. CM Punk's gonna get his ass kicked by to be determined.
Jonathan says that he's gonna get his ass kicked, which honestly is probably where the smart money's going. But I
Not
think
big names. We got Joe Benavidez fighting Sergio Pettis.
That's a good fight.
Lester Overeem, Curtis Blades. I never heard of him.
Curtis Blades. Is
Rashad Evans. Is still
Rashad Evans.
fighting
Oh my God, this
against
should be his
Anthony
fucking
Smith.
retirement fight.
Wow, he's got to be 40 by now. And then the main event you said, Yoel Romero. Gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be that seems like a good card right there, honestly.
Yeah, CM Punk's probably gonna just get a bunch of people to buy it and catch an ass whooping.
I don't think he's bringing in that.
Do
I
you
don't
think
think
he's
he's
been
bringing that
training
much
pretty-
promotion. I don't think he's
For
bringing
his
that many
first
ticket sales.
fight, he did.
Yeah.
But now the
hype's gone.
The hype's gone.
Yeah,
I just
that's
want him
all
to
it
win a
is.
fight so he can start cutting some promos. Because you know he's gonna. He's
Oh
gonna
my
get
God.
cocky. If he wins a
If-
fight, he'll get cocky.
That's the thing.
I wonder if he's been training hard, man. You never know.
he's been training at a good team, and
He's
it's been
athletic.
2 years.
Where's
I'm
he been
sure he
training?
is. You know what
Where's
I
he
mean?
been
He wants to
training?
make it a career. He
Rufus
wants to
Sport.
make some money.
Has
He's been training with Ben Askren and Pettis.
Wow.
That's why Sergio's probably on the card too. Usually when
Sergio's always fighting with one of the other people.
yeah, when
either his
Rufus
brother
Sport
or
is on the
somebody else.
card, you usually have 3 of them on the card. But dude, yeah, Ben Askren's a top level fucking wrestler too. So, I mean, he's working with good guys. He's been there for like 2 to 3 years at this point. They're probably looking for an opponent that's gonna job to him. So, I mean, not take a fall or anything, but fucking is gonna be
They wanna give him a
equal
shot,
or
yeah.
lesser skill. You know what I mean? Because they sent him the first fight. On the UFC's part, it's like, all right, we got this CM Punk guy coming in. He's a big name. He's bringing eyes to the pay-per-view. Lots of people are just tuning in to watch this fight. Let's send in this young kid who we think we can make money off of in the future. Let
Who
him
did he fight?
Mickey Gall,
Okay.
who's, he's doing okay right now. He
Better than CM Punk, I bet.
Yeah, better than CM Punk, because CM Punk hasn't even fought since then. But they're, use CM Punk to build a name for Mickey Gall, you know what I mean? So,
They didn't really care who came out of that, honestly. It was kind of whatever. For them.
yeah, but at the same time, people who watched him lose were like, all right, well, who's this Mickey Gall kid? He went in there and beat him pretty quickly, maybe it's going to be a small percentage, but a certain percentage of the people that saw that might end up tuning in to watch the next Mickey Gall fight. So, you try to build a star with a guy like CM Punk. And as far as the main event, it's just probably going to be one of the best fights of the year. Fucking Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. They've already fought once, I'm pretty sure. Robert Whittaker.
Yoel Romero's good, man. He's
Yoel
really good.
Romero's looking great right now. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and that was a weird podcast. You have Joey Diaz there, who's fucking translating Cuban for him the whole time. And when he's like, early part of the podcast, just talking about Cuba and blah, 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 and fucking, crazy shit in Cuba and training. And then they, like, kind of get into the steroid topic, and then you can see he's, like, I don't know. You can tell he was definitely a little skittish talking about the steroid topic, because he's been a guy, he's failed once before, I'm pretty sure. And then Joe even asked him, he's like, oh, so you failed the one time, but other than that, never failed before. And he's like, no. Oh, once for the Olympic testing, so it's like, he
didn't want to talk about it.
might be a little roidy. And when they were talking about, do you remember the one fight where, I think he was fighting Luke Rockhold, bang their first round, going back and forth. I'm pretty sure Yoel rocks Rockhold early. Then Rockhold at the end of the round comes back and almost knocks out Yoel. They got him on the bench. He's sitting on the bench. They fucking are going to start the round, and he's still sitting on
Is
the
that
bench.
Tim Kennedy?
Tim Kennedy.
That was
you're
Tim
right.
Kennedy.
And Tim Kennedy's
the
bitching.
military man.
Joe Rogan is bitching at the corner, like they need to get him out of the corner.
We saw that live. That was crazy.
Yeah, and he was asking him about that, and of course he's like, "Oh, they told me shit in the corner, shit in the corner."
But he knocked Tim Kennedy
Yeah,
the fuck out.
that's the thing.
Like, Kennedy had him on the ropes, like, literally half knocked out, barely on his bench. And then it's like, Kennedy's sitting there like, yo, get him off the bench. I want to knock him the fuck out. He's woozy. I want to knock him out. And then they finally let him off the bench, and Yoel just charges Tim Kennedy and just drops him with one shot.
So that was
crazy
super controversial.
Fight. Crazy
super
fight.
controversial. So yeah, that fight is gonna be a fucking scrap. Other than that, sports topics.
There's not really too much big football moves to be made. I mean, the Eagles getting Michael Bennett. That's big.
Got Michael Bennett and Haloti
The
Ngata,
Eagles' defensive
I wanna
line is
say.
looking like it's going to be a problem.
Looking good, but at the same
Losing
time,
some players.
we lost Vinny Curry. We lost. I can't remember right now. I
Tight
know we
ends.
lost Brent Selleck and Trey Burton,
Burton,
too.
yeah.
We lost at least one more player on defense, I'm pretty sure. So we've taken just as many hits as far as players that we've gained.
They did a good job of getting more players back in. The Dallas Cowboys have been sitting stagnant, haven't made any moves.
Yeah.
I think they're waiting with the cap space to figure out what they're going to do with Dez. So it's going to be interesting. We don't need to buy or get any players.
Yeah, but, there's been a lot
Some
of big names that have been new.
Richard Sherman, who's playing for the 49ers now, that's a big name playing, a switch up. I'm not really
Jordy
sure.
Nelson.
Yeah, Jordy Nelson going to the Raiders.
If Dallas was ever considering getting rid of Dez, Jordy Nelson would have been a good option coming in. But maybe
he probably wouldn't have been much of a difference in price range, honestly. Jordy probably would have wanted a lot of money.
But,
And hold on, the Browns have actually had probably one of the best off seasons. They've been coming up and they've been trying.
Yeah, we talked about that pretty good last.
Because they have the #1 draft pick as well.
Yeah,
you know what I
true.
mean? So it's gonna be interesting. They got a Tyrod Taylor. They got I forget who their running back is.
I'm
now.
pretty sure we went into it.
Carlos Hyde. I don't know.
Oh, they got
we
Carlos
talked
Hyde?
about it. We
Yeah.
talked about it a little bit on the Tecmo that has not been released yet. We
Yeah.
talked about it a little bit.
So
got to bring some football into this.
Other than
podcast.
football, fucking WWE. I think I was telling you guys about this. The Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal. They announced that on Raw this week. Played a video package. As soon as they announced it, some people on Reddit were really pissed. Second day on Tuesday, run the same video package, kind of confirming, yeah, this is the name of the thing. Lots of people on Reddit are pissed because they wanted them to change the name because Moolah, kind of a cunt in the wrestling business, known for hoganing the belt for years upon years, if not decades. She definitely regressed the style of women's wrestling, making it more the divas kind of style that is only just now kind of become a thing of the past. The main thing that people were pissed off about her for is that apparently the wrestling school that she ran, where she trained women wrestlers, the one thing is that wherever she would get them booked, she would take large percentages out of their pay, with her argument being that I'm the one that's getting you booked, so I can take whatever percentage I want. But the other thing that people are really pissed off about and is kind of controversial and a little bit definitely sleazy as fuck, she would always send girls to places where it's you're not getting paid unless you're fucking the promoter or doing something sexual with the promoter. So she's kind of looked at as a pimp almost in wrestling. Dave, thoughts?
And, well, I mean, this is back in what? Is it this back in the 80s, early 90s? When was this?
Even before that, probably 50s, 60s even.
I mean, it's a
60s
shame.
into the 70s, in the territory
She was counting.
area.
She was counting.
I mean,
But they changed the name.
They
now?
changed now.
Wow.
That's what I was getting to. They have changed the name officially to just the Women's Battle Royal. So
no shit.
yeah,
That's pretty crazy that they played that video package twice on what, WWE Live.
They played it on Raw and then SmackDown. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So they played it live and then they changed it mid. I don't know.
Is that
Thursday,
woman
2 days
still? That
later.
woman's still not alive?
No, she's died
Okay.
a while ago.
They completely fucking.
You know why
drenched her
they
name
also
even
changed
more.
it because I mean that's real controversial and like a big problem
Women's
right now
rights
in
is
Hollywood.
huge, yeah.
Not even just women's rights, just the fact of
equality, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
yeah, just these different men coming out about how different
Sexual
promoters,
assault
different
and shit like
photographers.
that.
Yeah, it's a real big thing. So I mean that doesn't
Hot
surprise
button
me.
issue.
Yeah, they want to please everybody.
Yeah, which is always WWE's motto.
But I mean, this one I do understand with. She sounds like, a real
kind of
asshole,
sleaze
so
bag, which
yeah.
at the time wrestling was a super sleazy type of business, so it only makes sense that and especially even sleazier was women's wrestling. So the person that's going to rise to the top is probably going to be a sleazeball. So wrestling is considerably less sleazy nowadays.
Now, Moolah herself, did she actually, deserve the belt? Was she a good wrestler at the time, or
I
did
mean,
she kind of maybe fuck her way somewhere?
Debatable, but that's the thing. The women's wrestling wasn't exactly big at the time. I think there are other women that see, I'm not an expert on the history of women's wrestling at all, but I'm sure there are other women wrestlers that people would point to say, she could have probably been a better champion.
She's more
She
of a
could have been a better
figure,
champion,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But like I said, Moolah Hogan the belt. And
It's just
basically,
interesting that people hated her enough that they actually changed the name. That's pretty interesting.
yeah.
That's everything nowadays. If there's enough uproar, people on whatever site, making a big enough deal, they're going to change it to please their fans. They have to, or else, hey, they lose 15,000 subscribers or however many, and, affects their business. They do it just for money reasons at this point.
Which the only reason they even named it after her in the first place, which if this was any other company, she probably wouldn't have got shit named after, but she was super tight with Vince McMahon's father, Vince Sr., and was always a, kind of important person in the company and always had close ties in the company, so that's why this company in particular would honor her when another company probably wouldn't. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which is something that Vince does all the time, you know what I mean? It's all about personal connections with Vince. So, a couple other fucking just quick topics that we can run through real quick. I seen this Sunday, Family Guy is supposed to run ad-free.
No commercials?
No commercials.
I like it, man. A lot of shows need to follow suit.
The reason, you want to hear the reason too?
Sure. Here we go.
Sure do.
Fox, when they wrote, or the writers for Family Guy, whatever, when they wrote the episode, apparently it ran over the time. And Fox actually said they wanted them to keep the episode how it was, which normally they would tell them to cut. You got to cut.
Yeah.
You got to cut to fucking fit commercials. They actually said, no, keep the episode intact. We're going to run it fully. They even said that even if how it's working now is that Sony is the only sponsor for this. They're going to run a minute ad before Family Guy for the new God of War and a minute ad after Family Guy for the new God of War. They're the sole sponsor. When they came up with the idea, Fox told Family Guy, even if we can't get a sponsor, we're running the episode fully, unedited. Which is kind of weird.
For what reason? Does Family Guy really bring in that many viewers?
Apparently.
Yeah, and they're trying. I think they're trying to do is by having only one sponsor, you're going to be able to request a chunk of money out of them to get that slot. That minute slot before, that minute slot after, that could be more popular instead of having to deal with 5 or 6 different commercial companies or 10 commercial companies.
I don't care how many companies are
like, all right, motherfucker, you get Family Guy, you get fucking Walking Dead, you get this. Like, it could eventually try to be like that, where it's...
A show like Family Guy, too, is a show that's constantly offending every fucking person. So you probably have a situation where you have a sponsor that's like, all right, we're signed up.
A lot of people might not even want to be a part of Family Guy sponsors.
That's what I'm saying.
People that are
you got people pulling out probably constantly because of this episode said this episode said that. So if you just got one sponsor for that show, that's only one sponsor you got to deal with. If they pull out, you replace them with another one.
And if God of War don't give a shit about how vulgar Family Guy is, they don't give a fuck.
Not even that. The fact that they let the episode run through and you don't have to take a break. Oh, okay, I come back 15 seconds. Obviously it's still fresh on your mind. Whatever
that's
you just
ideal,
watched.
Man, no commercials for anything.
That's why
I'll take a 2-minute commercial before and after. To be honest,
Jonathan's pop filter is destroyed. But yeah. So, Family Guy run.
Yeah, it's Botchmania.
Family Guy running ad free. Vladimir Putin is assassinating all kinds of fucking people. And dude, there's been multiple reports about assassinations from Russian dignitaries and shit like that. But he's also said that he's planning for a mission to Mars in 2019. So
find some more motherfuckers to kill out there, bro.
Putin's trying to undercut. This is the new space race with Elon Musk.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. This is almost
Elon Musk
a space
planned
race.
for 2020 to go to Mars.
He's undercutting him, and he wants to find water on the moon, which is very. I don't think that's.
Who cares about the water on the moon?
Exactly.
I like the Mars space race though. I like that
Mars space race. Good. Moon mission.
Bad.
Who cares? Let them explore space as much as they want.
Assassinations will follow.
Yeah. Hopefully this gets the American people, behind Elon Musk, or even the government gives them more backing or something.
To try to compete.
Yeah. I want them to find life, dude. I want an invasion or something.
We don't want
life. The whole point to explore Mars is eventually, whenever this planet's dry of all its resources, and
there'll be people lining up to get the fuck out of here.
We'll move to the next wave.
Yeah,
that's already established.
We use all the resources.
Yeah.
We use all the
destroy another
planet on Mars.
Thoroughly.
There's nothing there for us right now. That's the thing.
There's not enough for us to destroy.
But Jonathan's mic, his pop filter's falling off. We've gone over an hour. What do you think, gentlemen? Should we cut it off here?
Podcast. Squadcast number 2.
Squadcast number 2 in the books. We covered a wide range of topics today.
Stay tuned for some Let's Plays and some gaming.
The first episode of Squad Plays should be dropping sometime later this week. This is probably going to come out early in the week. That'll probably come out sometime later in the week. I've been your host, Tank Franklin.
Gentle Warrior.
Way Too Nice, a.k.a. Jonathan, out of here.
And this is the Squadcast. See you guys later.